Hi and welcome along. I'm the Gardener Ben, and now in mid-June there's a task on the horizon that you're going to need to start doing very regularly, and it's something you're asking me an awful lot about. So I thought I'd make you this brief video and just touch base with my deadheading techniques. You're asking why we deadhead, how we deadhead, and why we deadhead, and that's very, very simple. Now that the hormone levels on the plants have risen, and several of you were asking questions at the beginning of the season, only several weeks ago, about why you were having slightly misformed and misshapen flowers open on your plants. And generally this is due to the rise of hormone levels. As the season starts to warm, the day length extends and it starts to get much warmer. Your hormone levels rise in the plant, they come charging forward, and the plant is compelled to produce sexual growth. It wants to flower, ultimately be pollinated and produce seeds. And your job as the gardener in the next coming weeks is to trick it into thinking that it hasn't been pollinated and keeping those hormone levels really, really high. So that is why we deadhead. So by removing the sexual growth, the flower, once it's pollinated, before the plant has realized that it has been pollinated, you'll keep those hormone levels high and you'll keep it flowering for longer. Now I know a lot of the modern cultivars will actually have repeat flowers, and they'll flower for much longer, but by deadheading them quickly at the right time, you'll keep those hormone levels high and you'll keep those flowers charging forwards. So that's why we do it. When we do it, it's as regularly as it needs to be done. Never ever let the blooms fade on the plant until the back end of the season. If you're planning on growing hips on things like Dame Judi Dench or the Lark Ascending or Nye Bevan, you can keep the blooms on the flowers late on in the season, but we're not talking about anything before the end of August or the very beginning of September, depending on the season. Sometimes that can push right back into the end of September and the beginning of October, depending on what the weather levels are like. So this is a job you should be carrying out at least 2 or 3 times a week. And here in the North Lodge Cottage Garden, where I have nearly 300 roses, I am out now every single day deadheading hundreds, sometimes thousands of blooms, and with weather conditions like they are today, flowers going over very quickly. A question you're also asking awful lot is how long a flower should last on the plant, and unfortunately there's no real science that I can actually give you an insight into that for. Basically, it very much depends on how many flowers are in flower at any one particular time, the weather conditions, for instance, how warm and how sunny it is, what the temperature reaches, and most importantly, how quickly the plant is actually pollinated. If the flower opens and very instantly is visited by a pollinating insect, the job is done. The flower will fade. So if you don't have a huge amount around you in your natural area, or your garden is particularly barren and you're only growing a few window boxes or a couple of pots, the likelihood is your roses aren't going to last very long. They're going to get pollinated very, very fast indeed and go over very quickly. So there's no real science behind it at all, but this is something you're going to need to do very regularly, hopefully once a day or several times a week. Now, the equipment you're going to need, I use one of 2 different things. On larger stemmed roses, there is always the Falco number 8. These are my pruner of choice. I use these absolutely everywhere in the garden for a multitude of tasks, most of which they're actually not intended for, but my all-purpose tool, the Falco number 8. I will also be using these an awful lot as well. These are from Always Razor Sharp. They are a pair of needle pointed fruit pruners. Very, very handy. I'll bring those close into the camera for you. They are little tiny, like a plier, very, very sharp. These are very, very good for cutting sweet peas, for cutting dahlias, and for getting into the large amounts of blooms on roses. So if you have a single spray and you've got these secateurs to hand, you can use your normal secateurs, or if you have a multi-headed plant, you can use something like these needle sharp or needle pointed fruit pruners from As Always Razor Sharp, which are really, really good for getting right in between the heads. Because if you have a single flower, very, very easy to do. You want to remove the bloom as soon as the petals start to fade. You can see this one is just about to drop. This is a Stacia Vi, producing really, really large, beautiful pink flowers with tinges of yellow and peach through it. All you need to do is take the flower, obviously it's better to hold the petals, you don't want these falling to the floor, and remove the flower itself by 3, 4 or sometimes 5 pairs of leaves. You can do that to all of these, and this is where these needle sharp or needle pointed fruit pruners come in really handy. You can see this Stacia Vi actually has blooms all around it, and I actually want to get in between those and just nip off the singular head. It is really important that if your roses have multiple heads, that you're not leaving it until the entire spray has gone over and the flowers are starting to fade. You need to get every single bloom off as soon as it starts to fade. The idea is we keep those hormone levels raging, we keep those hormone levels high, and the plant never works out that it's actually been pollinated, and those hormone levels then start to drop. So basically you just need to go over the entire plant. If there's a multiple bloom, remove the single bloom, again with something very pointy like these. And if it's a single headed flower, just count 1, 3, 4 or 5 pairs of true leaves back and nip it off. Some of the cultivars have got such a fast repeat. For instance, Silas Mana will actually start sending up new growth well before the actual main spray of flowers has actually gone over. So then all you need to do is take that original spray back to the repeat and just nip it above, much as you would do any cut, so just above the leaf node. But I now need to go across Astacia Vi and remove the individual flowers and any of the ones that are on their own. You can see again here, this is a double bloom, a new bud coming just here and a faded flower behind it. This one comes off, and if it in time when this single flower that is left then fades, I can remove that by 2, 3 or 4 or 5 pairs of leaves right down and out of the way. So lots and lots to do in the garden. These come in incredibly handy at this time of year. So that is why, how and when we deadhead. If you have any queries or questions, you need to get hold of me, please feel free to leave me a comment below, but don't forget to like, follow and subscribe. I'll see you all again very soon. Take care now. Bye bye.